welcome to another new template design. This design is called Fortitude. We're going to take a look at the layers that exist in here by default, this design, to see how you can easily change and customize this for different looks and colors and things. Alright, so starting at the top we have our color grading layers. So these are typical for me. These are going to be adding extra color and contrast to your images to make them feel a little bit more polished on the end. These are inside of a group, so there's a couple different layers. You can change opacities and things of these as needed to get the look that you would like. Below that we have what I call the facial highlight boost. So these are layers designed to kind of brighten and boost the highlights on the subject's face so it stands out just a little bit more. We have this top one is for darker skin tones. This bottom one is preset for lighter skin tones. We can take a look at that as well when we have a subject turned on. Below that, simple text layer. It is easily edited by just double clicking on the text, and you could come down here and put in the new name. Alright, so it'd be easy as just typing a new name in and applying. Of course, you could move that around, change colors up here by picking the color, very easy to do all of that. Alright, below that we just have a couple foreground elements, which are these circles. So this is this upper circle, this is this lower circle. Very easily to change colors here just by double clicking, and you could select a color from your subject jersey or clothing, or you could come in, type in a custom color, or you could just eyeball and pick a color here as well. You could change opacities, fills of those, you could turn them off and on, you could move them around, so very easy to customize. Below that, marked in red, these are areas where your subject will be placed. So the top one, so this is a group to place your subjects with no fee if you're not using the feet in there. So they extend past the bottom of the frame. There's just some masking applied that's going to give some faded transition on that by default. And then below that, so again, you just expand that group. You can see you place your subject right here. So group below that, this would be the one to use with the feet if you wanted the full body to show and you wanted to put some ground shadows and stuff in there. You can very easily make this look like ground that they're standing on. Below that we have some more of just these background graphics here. So we have a circle here. Again, that can be moved and changed. Another circle here. Then we have a series of rectangular shapes. So these are just all the different shapes in the background. Easiest way to see them is to just click on them, and the newer Photoshop will give you a blue highlight around it, or just turn them off and on, and you can see which layers those are. So you can see as I click on each one, they're going to highlight in blue. And again, these can be moved around to create a host of different looks, however that you like. All of these again can be color changed just by double clicking on the shape layer and picking a new color very easily. So when we get below all the shapes, we have some center glow, which is creating a kind of a bright highlight spot in the background to give some subject separation. We have one of two background gradients, which is creating this dynamic lighting across the background. Below that we have just a little bit of a shadow. So this is meant for when your subject goes in to feel like there's a little bit of shadowing on the background from your subject to create a little bit more three-dimensionality. Below that, this is our text here that's running down the left side. So simple text layer. It does have some effects like a stroke line and a drop shadow attached to that. But you can just double click and type in the new text, and that's going to just update very easily. Attached to that text layer is just a gradient, which is going to kind of work with this lighting scheme in the background, where it's going to highlight from the bottom and give you a little lighter edge on that right side, or technically the bottom of the text. Below that we have this darken background layer. So if you just want a real quick layer, you could turn on to darken that background up. You can even crank that opacity way up, and you can make it very dark if you wanted to, but that's off by default. But that is there just for a quick little addition. Here's some background texture. This is being added because there's so many gradients across this background. This texture is just going to give a little bit of interest, but it's also going to really help with color banding across that background. Below that, so there's another gradient on the bottom edge here to create a little bit more dimensional kind of lighting and gradient in the background. So here's that other background gradient to create that dimensional lighting pattern. And then your main background color is going to be set right here. Okay, so that's all the layers. So you can see the way this one's constructed is very simple and very easy to use, but creates kind of a cool little simplified look. I think that looks pretty sweet. So let's go up here, let's open up a group and let's turn our subject on. So you can see here I've got a subject with some shadows in here. So again, it's very easy. If you just add some ground shadows, your subject's going to feel like you know, they're standing onto like a floor or a surface here. All right, so very easy to do. Now again, if you wanted to use them with no feet, if we copy this guy up here to this group, and let's turn this one off, you can see it's automatically starting to apply that fade from that mask. So if we'd make them a little bit bigger and drag them down here, you notice if you wanted to come in with a little bit larger, like this, it's just going to add some faded transition down here to the legs, just so it's, you know, not so standouty when the legs run out of the bottom of the frame. All right, so that's why the two different groups are set up. It's just for ease of use. All right, so let's turn this one back on. So there's our subject. Now the colors are kind of already match in here with this one, but again, if you wanted to change the colors, it'd be as simple as coming down, starting with the background layers where I like to start. So let's say we wanted to go, you know, more to a blue for our background. I like to just click around, you know, on the subject's jersey. I like that, kind of that dark medium blue looks pretty cool. So let's use that one. That looks sweet. So now scrolling all up, we have our text. So here we would have to change our text this time. Instead of blue, let's move towards this yellowish, orangish color. So let's find the tone that we want. I think something like this, but maybe a little darker looks pretty cool. Well, I picked the wrong thing. Let's try that again. All right, let's bring this down like that. There, I think that looks pretty cool. All right, we'll apply that. So we'll change our text color up there. Gradient, I'm still going to leave applied to give that highlight there. All of that's the same. Now we could change, you know, any of these background rectangles, right? We could come in and we could try and pick different colors. Now, for some of these, it's going to depend on the blending mode that's set. So let's say I pick this yellow tone. Right now it's set to a multiply blend mode, so it's just going to look darker. You could change blend modes on any of these to just normal, right, with different opacities. So if you wanted that to show up more like that. Or you could play with different blend modes like screen or overlay or soft light. I would probably typically recommend sticking between normal and multiply for whatever you're trying to do. So let's say we change that one. I'm going to go ahead and copy this color. Let's go to this next one here. Let's do the same thing. Let's paste this color in, change this to normal, play with opacity a little bit, and we'll do the same thing with this one. So this whole kind of block right here, we'll do the same color, same normal, but just some different opacity so it creates kind of some overlap there. So I think that looks kind of interesting. And so then it's the same thing. We could do that same thing to all of these. You could make these different shades of different colors. It's really sky's the limit on creating different color combinations on this one. But we'll kind of run with this because I like the look of it. So something kind of like that. Let's just leave that one dark, but we'll turn it up. You can see that's the one behind the leg there, but we'll just make it look a little bit darker. All right, let's take one of these. Let's put this color in, set this to normal also. There, so that stands out a little bit more. Let me bring the opacity back down a little bit on that one. So I'm just pasting these colors in, turn the opacity up, changing the blend mode. So that's going to make things much more visible back there because we went with a darker background. So if you're using a lighter background, then of course that multiply is going to work well. Let's do one more here. Okay, set to normal. Let's turn opacity up a little bit. There we go, we can see those lines. So you can see this one is set to a hard light, so it's already going to add some color in there. Maybe just bring opacity down on that one a little bit. So it's just whatever you like the look of in here. So a few different rectangles here. Let's turn that one up. Let's change the color. Again, you could make it white. Since there's some white in the jersey, make some lighter blocks. Let's do the same thing here. Let's make that one white. Maybe opacity down a little bit. Again, just to create some different kind of texture in the elements back here. These circles, let's go more with the yellow on that. Let's see what a hard light looks. Let's see what screen. Let's go to normal. Bring that fill up a little bit on that one. Let's go more towards white or gray on that one. That looks pretty cool. Again, you could change opacity or fill on this. Then a couple foreground circles right here. That's kind of already in that yellow range. I'm just going to make it a little bit more saturated. Same in that top one. Let's add a little bit more saturation and brightness in that one. There we go. So that would be an easy way to, kind of customize that to create a little, again, simple look, easy to change, but it's got some visual interest to it. And then we would just add some boost to those facial highlights, which I like to do. So I'm going to pick the one for the lighter skin tone. I'm going to make sure this black mask is selected. I'm going to grab a white brush. Let's bring it down smaller. And then I could just paint right over our subject's face here. And you can see that's just going to lift the highlights a little bit. You could bring this opacity up if you wanted to boost it more, or turn it down if you want it less. So again, real easy to customize this to the look that you want. Maybe the last thing I would do is this text is kind of set it to that yellow color as well. Yellow orange. There we go. That looks pretty sweet to me. So you get very easy to customize this one, but again, it creates just a cool, simple little look. And I hope that you guys love this one. Hope you get a ton of use out of it. Please share images you create. I love to see what you make with these. And I love to hear stories about, teams and clubs that really like their banners and things. So yeah, I look forward to seeing what you guys do and hearing from you. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one.